From CBS News Bay Area, this is the Evening Edition.
Now at 6, one person dead after their car drove off the Santa Cruz Wharf. A look at the recovery efforts.
Plus, ICE agents confirm an arrest was made at SFO. More on who was taken into custody.
And Dungeness crab season is postponed once again in the Bay Area. How crabbers are reacting to the news.
Live from the CBS studios in San Francisco on this Sunday night, I'm Brian Hackney.
And I'm Andrea Nakano. We start in Santa Cruz, where one person has died after their car drove off the Santa Cruz Wharf. This is a look at the search response. Police officers, fire crews, and a team of lifeguards were at the municipal wharf around 9 o'clock this morning.
Fire crews say that it took divers about 10 minutes to find the car, but due to zero visibility and nearly 10 feet of surf, it was not easy. The car was found upside down, submerged 30 feet in the water. Crews say that one person was pulled out of the car and loaded onto a jet ski. The victim was declared dead at the hospital. A tow truck was used to pull the car out of the water. You can see it is completely smashed and the windshield is shattered. At the time, the rescue forced the wharf to close.
They weren't letting anybody on the wharf, and so we had to park off street. And then when we were walking up on scene, they were a bunch of divers and the rescue teams were in the water. It's not really something you kind of see every single day, but it is common. Like, I think this is maybe like the second time someone has, drove off the wharf.
Fire crews say lifeguards also rescued a dog from the water, but it's unclear if it was inside the car. The dog was taken to an animal shelter and is okay. Santa Cruz police tell us an investigation is ongoing into the incident.
Well, Dungeness crab is a holiday staple to some people in the Bay Area, but seafood lovers will have to wait a lot longer to get their claws on one.
Officials have once again postponed the commercial Dungeness crab season. Dahlin has the story.
Very quiet at the docks near Fisherman's Wharf. The commercial season postponement was pretty much expected. It's been delayed the last 4 or 5 years straight, but it doesn't make it any easier for the fishermen. The crab pots will stay on the docks for at least a couple of more months. That's bad news for San Francisco fisherman David Kemp.
Look at me. I got holes in my shirt, It means we're barely holding on to our businesses.
A double whammy for David and other Bay Area fishermen. The state canceled the commercial salmon season this year, and now they'll miss out on the usually high holiday demand for crab.
Who really misses out is the public, because if they get crab that comes out of San Francisco, it's been in a freezer for 6 months or 8 months. If they get crab that comes out of Puget Sound, they're paying $15.99 a pound.
Prices are high because most of the crab served at local restaurants is being caught off the Washington coast.
Well, that means we're probably going to be closed Thanksgiving because we're not going to open. People don't come down here for turkey, so that hurts us for Thanksgiving. A lot of Christmas crab is huge for us, and New Year's. So that's our 3 holidays that really just kind of ruins.
No way to sugarcoat it. Everybody suffers. Fishermen, seafood restaurants, and crab lovers.
It's bad for business, and it just really hurts Fisherman's Wharf as a whole.
But they also understand the delay is meant to protect whales.
Anytime that they entangle more than 3 endangered humpback whales in a single year, the season will be delayed until the following year. So there were 4 whales confirmed entangled in Dungeness crab fishing gear over the last year.
Dr. Jeff Shester with Oceana says the state will likely approve new pop-up crab gear for the spring season. GPS and acoustic technology will trigger buoys and ropes to rise from crab pots on the ocean floor, eliminating vertical lines that can entangle whales and sea turtles.
New technology has been tested successfully and shown to work in a limited context over the last few years. And we're hopeful that this spring that will be an option to allow these fishermen to stay on the water and really prevent further entanglements at the same time.
But David says not everyone can afford the new gear, and his boat might be too small to handle it.
I can't be optimistic. There's nothing to be optimistic about.
The earliest the states might open the commercial season would be in early January. Now, for parts of the state and waters off of San Francisco, the recreational Dungeness crab season will still open on November 1st.
Alrighty, and this morning, a bit of a rude awakening. A 2.9 earthquake struck an area north of Lafayette. It was centered in Briones Regional Park just before 7:30 this morning. And folks from Walnut Creek to Berkeley said, yeah, they felt something. And they're going to feel drier weather, I guess, Darren?
Starting tomorrow, but we're still waiting for the last little gasp of today's rain to clear out. So you can see what the time lapses look like from the Salesforce, matched by the view out this window here. That's the live view, as opposed to the last 3 hours over there, which does look fantastic. But you can see it's still relatively gray and misty. You want to see how this comes to an end? Follow the line. What you're seeing here is the last little bit of a weak cold front, which is just about to clear the bay. Watch this, we'll play it again. And you can see as we go through the 4 o'clock and 5 o'clock hour, there's clearly an organized line on there that is coming to an end. We come in for a closer look, and you can still see it on here as well. I'll play it one more time. The reason why we're watching that is because it is the last car on the train. That's it. That's the end of this. We're going to start clearing things out and getting a break. And the real story actually does become the warm-up, which is coming our way for tomorrow and much of next week. In fact, really, temperatures are going to be spending more time on the verge of 80 for many of these inland microclimates in this 7-day forecast than not. Show you what that looks like. We'll get your part of the bay on the map. For now, guys, back to you.
All righty, thank you, Darren. We are following a developing story. ICE has confirmed that agents made an arrest at SFO today. 35-year-old Sami Hamdi was taken into custody and is undergoing immigration proceedings. ICE says that he was in the U.S. illegally, saying that they revoked his visa, his visitor visa, last Friday. Now, CARE, a Muslim civil rights and advocacy organization, is calling for his release tonight. The organization says Hamdi is a British journalist on a speaking tour. In fact, just yesterday, he spoke at a CARE gala in Sacramento and was scheduled to speak in Florida tonight. Audio issue. Sorry about that. The organization issued this statement saying, quote, abducting a prominent British Muslim journalist and political commentator on a speaking tour in the United States because he dared to criticize the Israeli government's genocide is a blatant affront to free speech. CARE says that it's currently working with attorneys and partners to address that arrest. In response, the Assistant Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security released this statement, saying, among other things, the individual's visa was revoked and he is in ICE custody pending removal. Under President Trump, those who support terrorism and undermine American national security will not be allowed to work or visit the country. It's common sense. We'll continue to follow the story, and we'll bring you any updates.
All right, now a live look at Alcatraz. 50 years ago on this day, the notorious prison opened up to the public as a museum run by the national parks. It welcomes over 1 million visitors every year and brings in about $60 million a year in revenue. John Martini was one of the early researchers sent to collect history of the island, and he shares what drew him to the project.
Alcatraz, because primarily of Hollywood and books, it was so well known and there was so much interest, and that so little was known about the island. It was a real chance to do what we call primary research.
The island has made national headlines this year after President Trump made moves to reopen it as a high-security prison. It was shut down in the 60s because it cost too much to operate.
Well, in other news, a children's attraction in the East Bay is in jeopardy. The owner of the Tilden Park steam train says that it cannot continue to operate without a long-term commitment from the East Bay Parks District. And John Ramos has that story.
Anyone who's ever been a kid or raised a kid in the East Bay knows that the Tilden Park steam train is an institution. And while its history has been on the rails, its future is very much up in the air. Whenever he rides the steam train, 5.5-year-old Daniel likes to be first in line so he can grab the seat just behind the engine. How many times have you ridden this train?
I don't know, maybe a lot. I rode them so much that I don't know how.
You don't even know how many times?
No.
He knows the journey so well, he's like a tour guide, pointing out different sights along the ride and hoping for something to happen that he says is very rare.
One time, the man who's driving us blew the whistle in the tunnel.
Was that scary or fun?
Funny. He didn't blow the whistle.
Oh well, there's always next time. And at $4 a ticket, the train is a popular outing for kids and their parents to do again and again. In fact, while other entertainment venues have suffered since the pandemic, the steam train is booming. And that's where the problem comes in. The operation needs some investment to maintain and expand its infrastructure, but owner Ellen Thompson says that's not even possible right now.
We've always had long-term leases with the Park District, 20 years at a time, and for some reason, the last go-around, for the last 7 years, we haven't been able to get a lease. And I don't know what the issue is with them, but we've had a draft out there for a long time. But during that 7 years that we've been trying to get a lease, the staff people that we've been trying to work with have changed 12 times in 7 years. And it's, you know, the new people who come in start reneging on the stuff that was settled a long time ago.
Because they've been operating on a month-to-month basis for 7 years, they can't get approval to make any capital improvements to the operation.
And there's a lot of maintenance things we have to do that have to be permitted. And we can't do any of that now until we have a lease.
Ellen says she would hate to have to find a new home for her railroad, which for her has been a lifelong labor of love. The little trains, begun by her father, Eric Thompson, in 1952, actually run through a mature redwood forest planted as saplings by the railroad. Dave Peterson is a retired airline pilot who, for the last 4 years, has worked the controls of the authentic scale-modeled steam locomotive. How important an asset is this for the Bay Area to have something like this?
Well, I've been coming here since I was a little kid, so I've liked it. We've had people here who are grandparents who were kids when their grandparents brought them.
There are 4 engines in all, each capturing in miniature form the romance of the mighty iron horse that propelled a nation into a new age of steel and steam. Meanwhile, Daniel, also in miniature form, captures the dream of keeping that history alive.
Would you like to drive the train sometime?
Yeah.
Why? What would that be like?
Because I like the trains, and I'm planning to make a train myself.
You're going to make a train yourself?
Yeah, I think so.
The Parks District declined to speak about the dispute, but offered a statement saying it is committed to a continued operation that meets all fire code requirements. Whatever caused the lease negotiations to go off the rails, parents and kids alike hope the two sides will work together to get it back on track.
I love the fact that little guy's going to make a train in his spare time. The train's owner, who just turned 70, said that she is asking for a 10-year lease with another 10-year option. And she says that she would like to establish a nonprofit that can operate the railroad long after she's gone. Andrea?
All right, thank you, Brian. Coming up, thieves in Southern California are stealing from the dead. Why they're interested in headstones at the cemetery.
And welcome back. In Los Angeles County, a cemetery in Compton has been repeatedly hit by thieves stealing dozens of the gravestones. The owner says that law enforcement has not been much help. Lauren Posen has more.
Blank spaces now fill some of the cemetery grounds where headstones once marked lives laid to rest at Woodlawn Celestial Gardens in Compton.
We had an intruder that at that time was breaking the headstones. I believe he was trying to pry it off of the concrete.
Security camera video from overnight shows one person moving through the grounds. It's hard to make out who they are, but you can't miss what they're doing.
This person came with a wheelchair, and it was very strange to see an intruder pushing a wheelchair in a cemetery in the middle of the night.
Owner Celestina Bishop says more than 50 headstones are gone or destroyed.
People don't realize that when we have vandals or people that want to come over here and tear up our gates or steal headstones, break them, that is very costly. And it's hard to keep trying to do damage control when we're trying to get this property together.
Replacing them, she says, will cost nearly $4,000 each. It's a price tag she's become all too familiar with.
I wish it had stopped.
We first told you about the problem a year and a half ago when thieves stole more than 100 headstones, smashing some to pieces and even taking the security cameras. In August, the cemetery was hit again. Thieves took nearly 20 headstones and damaged dozens more. About 3 weeks later, they struck again, causing even more damage to the grounds and the family's memorial. It's not the headstones themselves that the thieves are after. It's the bronze and copper plates attached to them. Jeanette Giannotti has family buried here.
I'm more concerned about what kind of person is buying the headstones that this person is able to sell to them. Like that, I mean, it has to be someone who has no connection to humanity.
The LA County Sheriff's Department says deputies took a report Saturday. Bishop says she feels abandoned and is calling on the community to help protect one of LA County's oldest cemeteries, the final resting place of more than 26,000 people, including 900 veterans, from being vandalized again.
All 26,842 people that's buried here is my family. So it's very heartbreaking because people don't realize that Woodlawn is not a financial benefit to me. I benefit emotional by being here. And it feels like that I'm being victimized.
All right, let's get caught up on this forecast now, and I'll show you how we are about to change. Yes, we're going to talk about the rain because we're not done with it. It's a pretty dramatic looking time lapse of the last 3 hours. Well, where the story now really lives is in the 7-day, not so much tomorrow. Tomorrow's nice. We're done with the rain. That's one cloud in that terrarium. It's the days back here I really wanted you to see. This is the next 7 days. You see what it says on the front of the floor there where it says inland? We're looking at our inland microclimate and going over the next 7 days. The real story is the warm up and temperatures that are going to be near 80. Don't worry about that view out the window. That is a live view from our front row seat looking across the East Bay right now. It is still gray. It is still damp out there. Tomorrow's not going to be like this. Here's part of the reason for that. Let's watch the progression of this. We're seeing the last little edge of the cold front beautifully outlined here in the rain. And look how that thing marches south, falls apart as it does. Look at your timestamp. That gets us to like 8, 9 o'clock. We're done. Done with that. One closer view on that. Let's bring it back home and let's get some locators on here, kind of see where we are. And there goes that front. Watch it leaving again as we get towards the evening. We'll be done with it. I mean, it's like 1/10 of an inch of rain so far that we got. The mountains have done a little better. I mean, we picked up about 1/2 inch of rain in the Santa Cruz Mountains. Closer to 1 inch, actually, way up on the north edge of Sonoma County there. But that's over the last 2 days. There were 2 cold fronts like this that came through. But since that's done, let's clear that off. We'll say goodbye to the visual for the rain. And now let's just talk about tomorrow's numbers. You're going to have more blue sky tomorrow than anything else. And you can see where you'll be for daytime highs on here when you take a look at the numbers across the bay. It's going to be a lot of low to mid 70s that show up on here. This is the forecast for the bay. I'm going to switch this now. We're going to transition to where we're going to be on Wednesday and watch what happens when we say goodbye to the numbers. And I bring in the actual color contour for Wednesday. It gets a lot deeper into the shades of orange and red. And now, we looked at it in the 7-day a moment ago, sure, but we were just spotlighting the inland numbers. Look at San Francisco. Look at Half Moon Bay. Low 70s. This is middle of the week. Plenty of sunshine here. All right, let's bring it back out again because what we need to do is do the comparison on that down to the south. I know we were looking at Monterey there, but let's get a little more detail on this. Look at the number inland. Get yourself up there towards places like Hollister. Going to be 86 there on Wednesday. Skip over to Santa Cruz. You want to see the microclimates for this region? Those temperatures in Santa Cruz will still be relatively nice. You'll be in the 70s there. So interesting setup coming our way over the course of the next 7 days. We're done with the rain, and now we're just waiting for the warm-up to settle in. I showed you the inland microclimate to start this discussion, but the numbers for the Bay are also pretty standout. 78 on Wednesday. Think Redwood City, Hayward. You guys are going to be just shy of 80 there. And when you do that, for those locations, we're going to be, as we saw, in San Francisco, low to mid 70s. We should hold on to this for much of the rest of the forecast, even taking us into next weekend and maybe even taking us for a good part of early November. That's going to be a conversation for another day or perhaps the next week or so.
From CBS News Bay Area, this is the Evening Edition.
And welcome back. The fact that Gavin Newsom is now suggesting a run for the presidency is hardly a surprise. The bigger mystery is why he denied any interest in the office for years upon years. Newsom has positioned himself as one of President Trump's biggest political opponents, and now he's given the first real indication that he's considering a presidential run in 2028. This is what he told CBS Sunday Morning.
I'm looking forward to who presents themselves in 2028 and who meets that moment. And that's the question for the American people.
Is it fair to say after the 2026 midterms, you're going to give it serious thought?
Yeah, I'd be lying otherwise. I'd just be lying, and I can't do that.
Newsom's final term as governor in California ends in January of 2027. And now that he has finally admitted what most assumed, he has a potential opponent in Kamala Harris. Max Darrow breaks down what Californians are saying about the 2028 race.
Looking further into the future, California voters were asked about their appetite for Gavin Newsom running for president. Among all voters, 48% said yes, 52% said no. However, among Democrats, an overwhelming 72% said yes, he should run. Voters also were asked about Kamala Harris, and among all voters, 31% said yes, she should run, 69% said no. Among Democrats specifically, the majority still said Kamala Harris should not run for president, though it was a slim majority. In an interview with the BBC, Harris said she is confident there will be a woman in the White House in the future, but did stop short of saying she will run again.
I have lived. Meantime, President Trump continues his trip to Asia. He spent today overseeing the signing of a ceasefire agreement between Thailand and Cambodia. This comes as members of the administration expressing new concerns about the ongoing shutdown's potential impact on the economy. CBS News' Willie James Inman has the latest.
President Trump kicked off his trip to Asia by dancing along with performers in Kuala Lumpur as he was greeted by Malaysia's Prime Minister. The president later joined in the signing of a ceasefire agreement between Thailand and Cambodia, which he helped negotiate in July, diffusing a long border dispute.
This is a momentous day for all of the people of Southeast Asia.
President Trump is expected to meet with a number of world leaders during this week's trip to Asia, including Japan's newly tapped Prime Minister and President Xi Jinping of China.
On Sunday's Face the Nation, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent said additional 100% tariffs on China are effectively off the table after a very good two-day meeting with Beijing's top trade negotiator.
I would expect that the threat of the 100% has gone away, as has the threat of the immediate imposition of the Chinese initiating a worldwide export control regime.
Bessent also weighed in on the ongoing government shutdown.
It's a global embarrassment what these Democratic senators are doing, keeping the government shut down. It's starting to affect the economy. It's starting to slow down air traffic.
Also on Face the Nation, House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries, who said it's time for Republicans to sit down with Democratic leaders to discuss health care reforms.
We'll sit down anytime, any place with anyone, either at the Capitol or back at the White House, to reopen the government, to negotiate a bipartisan spending agreement that actually meets the needs of the American people.
The current shutdown is the second longest in U.S. history.
In Washington, demolition began earlier this week, but it's now a quiet scene at the White House tonight before construction resumes tomorrow. As you know, the East Wing was demolished to make room for President Trump's ballroom. The new build is expected to come with a big price tag, about the same as putting Prop 50 on California's ballot, but Trump says there is a $300 million difference.
$300 million is the figure, and again, it's not going to cost the taxpayers a dime.
Trump administration says it is funding this project through private donations. CBS News confirmed a list of 37 donors across dozens of executives and companies. Notable names include Silicon Valley-based Google and NVIDIA, as well as other big tech companies like Amazon and Microsoft. White House has not said how much money each company donated, Andrea.
Week after a brazen heist at the Louvre Museum in Paris, prosecutors say 2 arrests have been made in connection to the theft of priceless crown jewels. But there's still some unanswered questions. CBS's Lee Canary has the latest.
The thieves were caught on video leaving the Louvre on a basket lift and escaping on motorcycles. Now an update on the hunt for them. The Paris prosecutor confirmed arrests were made Saturday, and one of the men was found preparing to leave the country from Charles de Gaulle International Airport. That confirmation followed reports that first leaked into French media that 2 men had been arrested who were previously known to police for having records for burglary, and that one allegedly intended to escape to Algeria. But the Paris prosecutor would not confirm those details, adding that the hasty disclosure of information can only harm the efforts of the 100 or so investigators involved. Police say they're combing through around 150 pieces of evidence, including DNA samples collected from the scene, from a helmet, from a blowtorch, a walkie-talkie, and a yellow vest left behind, some of those found doused in gasoline. For investigators, it's a race against time. For the world, a spectacle to behold. 4 men with a lift and a disc cutter in broad daylight, managing to steal France's crown jewels. But the $102 million question remains unanswered. Where are the jewels?
I wonder what that answer was. Coming up, Marin County made a huge payroll mistake, and now some of its workers will have to pay for it. Details are coming up.
An expensive mistake in Marin, as the county just found out that it overpaid nearly 24 employees over the last 3 years. The total is estimated at $300,000, and that number is still growing. The county says it wants that money back. Brad Hamilton has more.
Okay, imagine you've been making the wrong paycheck for the last 2 years, and you've just been told by your own company that you owe them money. Well, that has been the case for some Marin County workers here recently, and the mistake happens to be the employer's fault. Riley Katz has seen it all.
I've been doing this work for 47 years.
Or at least he thought.
I think this is a first, and I've been in this county for 11 years. It's certainly a first in this county.
As the executive director of the Marin Association of Public Employees, Katz represents workers now caught in the middle of a costly county error.
Very sorry we made a mistake. You owe us X dollars.
Katz wrote to the county supervisors earlier this month, warning that back in 2022, Marin County mistakenly increased pay for bilingual social service workers by about 7%. He says that raise was intended for a different group of employees, but was applied in error and left uncorrected for more than 2 years. Katz estimates that the total of overpayment is at more than $300,000 and says some workers could be on the hook for more than $20,000 each. He also points out that 9 of 20 workers impacted were hired after the mistake was made at the higher rate, which was written into their offer letter.
Suddenly got an email saying you owe us thousands of dollars and we're paying you too much. It's been very stressful for folks.
In a statement to KPIX, County Counsel Brian Washington confirmed the overpayments and wrote in part, quote, "The county acknowledges the significant financial impacts for many of the affected employees and is in active discussions with our employees and their representatives to work through these issues." Washington later added, no repayment letters have been sent and discussions are still underway about how to handle employees that were hired after August 2022. Katz says the union has now made a formal offer to the county, asking it to clear the 9 newer employees of any obligations and create a repayment plan for the 11 people who were hired before the mistake was made.
Bottom line is we're hoping the county, to use an overused cliche, will do the right thing.
Katz did want to give the county credit for owning up to the mistake, but he said any explanation for why this happened and what's being done to fix it hasn't been given just yet.
All right, Brad, coming up, Hurricane Melissa threatens catastrophic conditions in Jamaica. Darren was talking about that the other day, how locals are preparing for the storm.
Yeah, and Brian, we're going to have to put a little context on that tonight as well. Sea surface temperatures off our coast in the 50s. Out where Melissa is, almost 89 degrees out here. Well above average. And that's a lot of energy and fuel for a hurricane, which is almost certainly, when we wake up tomorrow morning, going to be a Category 5. It's going to happen overnight, and it's got its sights set on Jamaica. We're going to put some context on it. We'll get some close-up looks on what to expect from this coming up.
Sure is pretty. Taking a look at satellite imagery of Hurricane Melissa, which is now a Category 4 storm. It is aiming straight for Jamaica. And this is some of the damage Melissa did to the Dominican Republic on Friday. The National Hurricane Center is predicting the storm could be life-threatening and catastrophic for Jamaica and parts of Haiti, especially if it strengthens into a Category 5 storm, which Darren says it sounds like it will. Tourists scramble to get off the island before the hurricane makes landfall.
We're on vacation. It was supposed to be for 8 days. We made it 7 days because of the hurricane.
It was a great experience until the weather came. It was treacherous.
Meanwhile, locals are preparing to weather the storm by filling sandbags and buying essential groceries, but the rain will be unheard of.
My fear at this point is really the flooding. I'm fine. Where I live, I'm fine. But I'm thinking about the persons who live in the flood-prone areas because this hurricane is moving so slowly.
Well, slow movements don't cause a whole lot of damage. It's nature. We can't fight against nature, right?
Hurricane Melissa is expected to make landfall on Jamaica's southern coast on late Monday or early Tuesday morning. And with a latest literal look at it, here's Darren.
You know, a little bit of context into how this thing was able to intensify so quickly. We start off with the view here at home. I'm going to switch from the clouds to see the sea surface temperatures. We know it's cold here off our coast. The water temperature for us is in the 50s. It's supposed to be warm in the Gulf, but it's almost 89 degrees off the coast of Jamaica. The water temperatures here are just about 3 degrees Fahrenheit above average. And I know when you hear that, some people might think 3 degrees doesn't sound like a lot. Think about this for a second. Look at the entire ocean basin out here. How much energy do you think it would take if you wanted to take this entire body of water and warm it by 3 degrees? Hopefully that lends some context to how much energy this now has to put back into the atmosphere, which is what these storms want to do. And if we take a look at the latest infrared imagery on these things, this is where you can really visualize the depth and the structure of the storm. By tomorrow morning, it's likely a Category 5. We could put the forecast track on there, get a close-up look. Little island there under the 4. That's Jamaica. Come back out for the wide view. It's one thing, we can all visualize what that means from the intensity of the wind and the storm surge, but there is something else about the topography of Jamaica which lends itself to being a major factor in this. This is accumulated rainfall over now through tomorrow. The shades of white show you where you've got 3 feet of rain. Jamaica sitting here. If we put the topography on this and come in for a close-up look, the mountains of Jamaica go as high as 6,000 feet. This is mountainous terrain. Look at the communities here downstream from those mountains. Here's Kingston, that's the capital. When that storm hits those mountains, the mountains are going to force it to drop a lot more rain than it would have on its own. It's like maximizing the rainfall. In a lot of ways, this does look like a worst-case scenario coming for Jamaica over the next 24 to 36 hours. It's going to be a big story. You'll be hearing a lot about it. We'll be keeping you updated here, as I'm sure everywhere else will too. All right, let's come back home to our story. Our rain's about to come to an end. We were looking at this a moment ago. You can see how the last of the cold front's just about to break apart and come to an end. So we're pretty much done with the rain. Once we get to about 8 o'clock, let's watch it again. Keep your eye out here for the structure of the cold front as it exits, and look at the timestamp. It's like 7, 8 o'clock. It leaves and we're finally done with it. You know, you're going to wake up tomorrow, you're going to have more sunshine than anything else. And it's also going to be about 10 degrees warmer. Look at the daytime highs on here for Monday. Keep the wide view on this, because what we're going to do is I want to transition from where you're going to be on Monday. We'll say goodbye to the numbers and watch the color scheme change for Wednesday. And this is really the main story here at home in our forecast. Now go ahead and pick out some of those numbers. Middle of the week, it's going to be in the low 80s for most of our inland microclimates. Going right back into late summer. Once again, 82 Santa Rosa. Look at San Francisco at 73. All right, come back out here for the wide view. Let's get down to the south. Let's put those numbers on for Monterey, and you can see what the numbers will look like here. Of course, here's our Microclimate spread from 86 in Hollister to 75 in Monterey, 82 in Watsonville. So how long do we stay like that? Let's go to the 7-day forecast, and now we see what the real theme of this forecast is. We're going to track what's left of the rain. We've done that. Tomorrow, maybe a few leftover clouds, but you'll actually get plenty of sunshine. The real story is back there. Those numbers on the verge of 80 for most of the 7-day forecast, and all the way into the weekend, next weekend. And when we look at the long-range forecast, we're getting towards early November now, and as we look into that first part of November, looks like it's going to stay this way. Sunny and relatively warm for us for the time being. We'll keep you updated on this as well. All right, guys, back to you.
All righty, thank you, Darren. Coming up next, we're going to take you to a metal shop that's helped shape the city of Berkeley and why they're shutting down after more than a century. That's next. And welcome back. This metal shop in Berkeley has been in business for more than 100 years, but in a few months, they're going to be closing down.
John Ramos has more on the shop that's helped shape the city for decades.
When the Walter Mork Company closes its doors for the last time, it won't just be the end of a metal shop. It'll be taking a piece of Berkeley's history with it. The business began in 1909, following the San Francisco earthquake, when Walter Mork brought his metal fabrication skills to Berkeley to open his own shop.
My grandfather is this man right here with the balding head.
Fred Mork ended up with the business, having it passed on to him from his father, Walter Jr. But now, as he walks through the cavernous building, he can't see a future, because in a few months, the Walter Mork Company will close down for good.
I would have never been able to predict it 10 years ago. And I feel sorry. I feel sorry for the future generation that don't have the skills, are not interested in this kind of technology and don't want to learn about it.
Computerized fabrication has taken so much business that shops like Fred's just can't make it anymore. Add to that the escalating costs of business, and there just isn't much of a future for the shop's workers. Fred's son-in-law, Berkeley Choate, is vice president and handles most of the business operation.
Just not enough profitable volume of work. It's also very hard to find really good people anymore. Ironically, the more complicated the project, the better he does.
The shop has been producing high-profile metal structures in Berkeley for a century, including an archway that pointed the way to the city's bustling manufacturing district. These days, the shop makes custom architectural features like this beautiful copper roof piece.
Well, you wouldn't be able to build this with the computerized stuff.
So is this something that's kind of disappearing from life these days?
Well, it's harder and harder to get people to do it, for sure.
But there are still some people who appreciate the art of hand craftsmanship. Scott Williams has learned to love working with the massive old machines, and on this day was fabricating a plate for the chassis of his motorcycle. Do you ever just buy something, or do you just make everything you need?
It's a lot cheaper to make it. So the parts are expensive, so I'll just make them myself.
But it's not just about the cost. He says there is a satisfaction in making something with your own hands. It's something he learned by working here.
It's the best job I've ever had.
Why is that?
Because of the owner. He's a good guy. He trusts me. That's a nice feature to have. And he lets me use this place on the weekends. So that's awesome.
And that feeling is clearly mutual.
I'm also so proud of people like Scott that do want to learn about it and devote the rest of our lives to learning and perfecting the fabrication techniques that we use right here.
Fred has spent years teaching young people the skills that were passed on by his father and his father before that. In a few months, another piece of Berkeley will pass into history, and though most will never know it, the city will have lost something important.
Yeah, no kidding. Those handmade skills that go back so far. It's sad to see those go away and just not valued.
Now we just get on our phones, tap on Amazon, and buy whatever's made with machines.
I'm not a fan. Thanks for watching. 60 Minutes is next. We'll see you back here at 11.
Good night.